and you download that, and it did not have any MP3, did not have any flash, did not have any of the codecs that had licensing or patent restrictions. And they had, for everyone else, they had the main edition, which is the one that includes all your flash and DVD playback and all that kind of stuff. So that's how they got around it.
Well, if I can just butt in, the quote you gave was from the Gettysburg Address, and it was Abraham Lincoln, and I'd love to pretend that I knew that, but I didn't have to Google it while you were talking. So that was being perfectly honest. But yeah, that was the quote.
I knew it was one of the founding fathers. It's a common one that you hear, you know. It's,
I get the impression that all three of us should have known that, and we'll probably be criticised for not being able to spout that off straight away.
I don't think they actually write their own speeches. I'm not sure if it was the case about 200 years ago, but check today. And it's actually interesting because the person who wrote the speeches for the Gates family has just started to write speeches now for Hillary Clinton. And that was news from like 2-3 months ago. And it just makes you wonder, done exactly right the material. So
well, I've got a quick question to put to Gordon, and I don't like putting you on the spot or anything like that. I know
okay.
obviously you're not an official representative of the Linux Mint distribution, but this is one that's always interested me. Now keep in mind I've only ever used the distro for a very short period of time, and that's not because there was anything wrong with it. It's just fate.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Sell Linux Mint to me in the sense of how is it more accessible for the... I mean, I deploy a lot of Linux to new users, and I always choose Ubuntu, and currently I'm sort of a year behind development in terms of the version that I ship out to the new users that I deploy Ubuntu to. So I want you to try and sell me Linux Mint over Ubuntu, and what exactly, obviously apart from the... Apparently, I believe it's more accessible for the proprietary software, the codecs, and etc. But what advantages does it offer over Ubuntu, say, the latest version?
Right. Well, I suppose that there's three sort of prongs to this. The first we've already done. It's the codecs.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that it comes with, and it's playback. It's not encoding. I had to still add various H.264 encoding and all that stuff to do my screencasts. So it's decoding rather than encoding that it comes with. But all of that's set up right out of the box for you, assuming you go for the regular edition.
Mm-hmm.
And that means, I use XFCE usually. I'm an XFCE guy. And I will be doing screencasts on XFCE, so soon, at some point. So there's the codecs. Second thing is the Mint tools that I've covered on my screencast. Now, these tools are a sort of a way to to simplify a concept down. I mean, if you're talking about, for example, an FTP client to someone who has no idea what FTP is. You know, they get a free account with Picasa or something. They say, oh, you can upload your photographs via FTP if you want. They have no concept of what FTP is. Now, it's a bit of a stretch to then say, oh, go download FileZilla, which I use myself, and set up an account and your password and your port numbers, and it's a bit of a stretch, and then sort of navigate to the right folder and have to do that every time you want to upload photographs. So the Mint devs have come up with various little tools. One of them is Mint Upload that sits on your desktop, and you can simply, once you set your account up, you can simply drag your photograph and drop it into that space on your desktop, and it uploads to that server. You've got things like Mint Nanny, which is about blocking IP addresses for that local machine. I did a screencast, and I think the example I put on was blocking apple.com, which normally they try to block Microsoft, so I thought it'll be different. But it's little tools like that, arguably one of the best ones is Mint Update. I'm not sure what other distributions do to get this sort of a feature. I believe Ubuntu apparently have kind of caught up a little bit with this. And Mint Upload, it basically rates each of the downloads. It's like Synaptic, it's like a package manager, but it's simpler. It's much, much simpler. And, I mean, bear in mind, all of these are aimed at the new user coming from Windows or whatever. They don't know Linux. They don't know anything about Linux. They're just starting off. It's my first distro, sort of. I mean, it's more than that, but it's that sort of a mindset to simplify things, to let them ease their way in gently. And I mean, why make it complicated when it doesn't need to be? So what Mint Update does is it rates your the updates that it offers. Because I've found before sometimes if you're updating through Synaptic, which I actually do myself, that you may get an update that's not that well tested, or it may cause some, conflict or something. It's unlikely, but there's a chance that there might be a little bit of breakage by updating it through Synaptic. Well, what Mint Update does is rate, and it's a rating and filter thing, where you've got, like, number one offhand is done by the Mint team themselves. So that's like your Mint tools, your Mint backup, that type of thing. 2 and 3 are Ubuntu related. These are Ubuntu updates that come from Canonical or Canonical trusted partners. You know, they've been well tested by the Ubuntu people to be fine. And then you've got 4 and 5, which are actually hidden by default. So if you keep updating with Mint Update, your system is going to be more stable. It's going to continue to be more stable because it's going to leave things out that would be labelled 4 and 5 essentially, that you would get if you updated through Synaptic. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you get the safer, the more tested updates. So it's the Mint tools essentially. You've got the codecs and you've got the various Mint tools. Mint Update is just one of them. Mint Backup is handy as well. But the other thing that's I cannot figure out why, and this is testament to the Mint devs. I just cannot figure out how this is possible, but it is, or it seems to be. There's more stuff running on Linux Mint. It's technically, if you look at it, it's a heavier distribution than Ubuntu. But for some bizarre reason I cannot put my finger on, it's snappier. It feels more responsive. It feels lighter. But it can't be.
Probably true, though. You probably think of a system that has a registry or something that has to parse lots of data. But I don't think that just because you have more settings directories or because you have more executables in your among your binary files, I don't think it should affect the speed. So people think it's kind of like it's bloated, it's too much stuff installed, but I think they come from a Windows world where things register with the system, all kinds of associations with files, and once you install lots of things, then the registry gets bloated and you have more assignments to context menus and menus and so on. So I think it kind of makes some sense that it should be at least comparable or about the same, unless they remove some things or maybe change the kernel or change parameters in the kernel. But it's
I'm not sure how they do it. I'm really not. It baffles me. It doesn't apply to my logic circuits. That somehow it can add more and be less. I don't know how they do it. And honestly, it's testament to the Mint devs that they can do that. And I tip my hat to them. I really do.
I've met quite a few people who use Windows and then tend to confuse disk space with performance, and they would think that if you install more things or if you put more things on the hard drive, the computer will be slower. So they'll say things like, "Oh, don't put more songs on my computer because that's going to slow down the system." They don't have this perception that separates memory of things running in memory and things just sitting on the hard drive. And they tend to think that just because you install something, it gets slower. And a few years ago, I'll just make it very quick. A few years ago, I had these arguments with people that I try to convince to move to Firefox or to Thunderbird, they would basically say to me, "Oh, don't install anything more because it'll slow down the system." And that kind of works in Microsoft's favor because they teach people don't install anything.